What we're hearing is that next purpose technology has already started to and will disrupt, right, all of the sectors in the Caribbean. Our approach to manufacturing, content creation, consumption of content, agriculture, the creative industries. So, Stacey, as we discuss these policy roadmaps that we've started to create, how do you feel that the Caribbean people will view the ethics of using artificial intelligence generally? What would the ordinary man's response be to that?
It's interesting that you're asking about a general context. I always find it so much easier when we can relate to a particular example, a particular sector, a particular way of doing things, and then we can extrapolate it to what it might mean for us in general terms. And when I was really considering this forum and the equality aspect of it, I started to think about an area that will touch on the lives of each and every one of us. And that is crime, that is policing, that is, keeping our societies safe. It is about, what our governments will do. Here we're talking about industry, but the government really has a big role to play in all of this in terms of regulation and in terms of leading the way in certain departments. And I think policing is one area that I can definitely focus on in terms of giving an example of how we can be affected in other areas of our lives. And in looking at this example, it is about the ethics, the rightness, the moral principles as we understand them in the Caribbean, of incorporating these various computer systems that are programmed to perform tasks into the fabric of law enforcement. And it is generally agreed that the use of AI in policing is intended to make forces more efficient, more effective as they strive to keep our society safer. For example, automated monitoring, like the use of CCTV that a lot of us might not like, wanting to have, our public persona captured when we're moving around our daily lives, but it's there for a purpose in case anything goes wrong. We might be the law-abiding citizens, but then there might be others out there who are not doing the right thing. And then, of course, when officers wearing their body cameras can capture what actually happens when they're interacting with members of the public. That's, an example of using artificial intelligence in policing for the benefit of the masses. And once it is done and executed in a way that is responsible, I would say that yes, it's the right thing to do. It's the moral thing to do. It's the ethical thing to do to ensure that we're all kept safe, to ensure that officers are not abusing their powers. And AI, again, it can be used for the better in terms of reducing the use of paperwork for officers, to make their work more productive, processing big chunks of data like those from suspects, from their devices in digital crime. And somewhat controversially, being able to predict who will commit crimes in the future by using arrest histories and other AI-driven data. And that's something that I can talk a bit more about. For instance, something that comes to mind is an example where, it was in 2019, late 2019, police officers in Florida, in Pasco County, to be specific, they turned up at a home looking for a teenage boy around 8 p.m. in the night. And they were insisting that they need to check his room, saying that he was a high category criminal and he was being watched by police. But his family knew that he was on probation for one offense that he committed in his life. He was about 14, 15. And, he and his friends, they had stolen some motorized bicycles. But for that reason, having his information about him on file, using that as an example, an AI algorithm actually said to the officers that this minor may commit future crimes based on what he had done in the past. And so these are some of the issues that we now have to be considering for the Caribbean and how ethical it is. Because many of us might want to support, predictive policing, as it's called, with this notion that, police can be so proactive in using the technology to crime-proof our societies. But we also have to consider that incorporating this type of inter-Caribbean policing could easily paralyze underprivileged communities in particular. It can lead to greater social unrest than the predicted crime could induce. It could wipe out a young generation that would have no way back from one childhood mistake. This example in Florida in the United States indicated that the particular county really had a mandate to utilize the technology in this way. And over 5 years, they had targeted about 1,000 citizens, and 1 in 10 of them were below the age of 18. So these are some of the ethical issues that we are to consider as we want so much for artificial intelligence to drive what we do and who we are and how we feel and how we operate and how we interact as a people.